This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. And do we have a quorum?
President Dale, I'll read through the roll call. Director Alvarez, Director Gray, Director Houston, Director Williams,
here,
and President Deere.
Here. Well, we don't have a quorum, but it's already 6 minutes late, so we might as well get started.
Yes, and I do believe that Director Gray and Director Houston are included in the meeting. However, they might have stepped away for just a minute. So we do not have any action items here for us today. Everything is information, so we can begin the meeting.
Very good. Well, is there any public comment?
President Deere, we have received no requests for public comment.
Okay, we'll go to item 4, discussion items.
Mr. Chair, this is Director Houston. I am here. I'm back. I got cut off.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you.
So the record show we have 4 directors on board, right?
That is correct.
Okay, we'll go on to item 4A.
Yes, thank you very much, President Deere. Under discussion items, we do have item 4A, which is a Metropolitan Water District operations update. For this presentation, we do have Brent Yamasaki, the Group Manager of Water System Operations. The presentation was emailed out to the Board of Directors, and we do have it for you today. We'll have staff bring it up right now.
Okay, well, thanks, EJ. This is Brent Yamasaki. Can you see my screen? And can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, great. Again, I'm Brent Yamasaki, the Chief of Operations for Metropolitan Water District. Good afternoon, everybody. And thanks for inviting me to your caucus meeting today. As you know, 2021 was a really challenging year after a very challenging 2020. And this presentation recaps the 2021 operations and the work that we all partnered on to get through the year. Let's see. There we go. So recall that 2020 was a really dry year. And as you can see from the drought monitor map, where the darker colors represent worsening drought conditions, 2021 was one of the driest of record. And the state water project allocation for 2021 was 5%, which was tied for the lowest in history. So this is a map of our system, and it shows state water project use in green and Colorado River water use in yellow. And this is how we operate in a typically low state water project supply year under, we'll call it dry operations. And so you can see that the majority of our system is Colorado River aqueduct deliveries in yellow. And this is how we operated to start the year. So in February, we realized that it was pretty dry, and we took significant actions every month. I'll walk you through these as the year progressed. And to begin, we minimized the Sepulveda feeder in February of last year, and this is water flow on the west branch of the system, as shown with the green arrow on the left-hand side of your screen, and water treated through the Jensen treatment plant. So we minimized the flows on this feeder in February and pinched back as much as we could with close monitoring of the system for water quality issues under low flows and to make sure there were no issues like nitrification. In addition, in February, we took actions to send DVL water to the Lakeview pipeline. And this was only possible because of improvements to the system that were made in the last drought in 2014, where we interconnected the inland feeder to the Lakeview pipeline. thus allowing this operation. We also partnered with DWR to utilize some of our flexible storage program water in Lake Paris to help augment the real low state water project supplies. In addition, we had to maximize our flow on the Colorado River Aqueduct. And so ordinarily a high flow on the aqueduct is 7 pumps. And so in this illustration, you can see how that fills the majority of the aqueduct. When it's really dry, like it was in 2021, we'll turn on an 8th pump. It adds another 230 CFS, cubic feet per second. And at that flow, we actually would overtop the aqueduct because of the capacity limitations. So staff pinches back gates and throttles the flow to make sure that the additional 8th pump will fit in the aqueduct. So we don't get a full pump's flow, but it's the amount of flow that'll fit in the aqueduct. This operation, as you can imagine, takes a lot of coordination, a lot of extra monitoring. It's both operations and engineering in this case to keep an eye on the aqueduct. So it's not an easy operation to do, but it's one that's essential in a year like 2021. And the last time we operated at this high flow was 2015, again in the last drought. This gives you an idea of what the flow looks like at a full aqueduct, and you can see it's really close to the concrete lip of the aqueduct under these flows. Okay, there we go. So a new drought action that we took in 2021 was the delivery of Diamond Valley Lake water to our Mills treatment plant. And so utilizing the infrastructure that I just described, plus some improvements that were made to strengthen some plumbing in the area of Lake Paris in Metropolitan system, we were able to, for the first time ever, flow water from Diamond Valley Lake by gravity up to the Mills plant. This action alone saved about 45,000 acre feet of state water project supplies. And by then, in the beginning of May, we knew that, you know, the 5% was going to stick and that we were stuck with low supplies from the state in 2021. So also early in the year, in June, we finished a complete rehabilitation of our Gregg Avenue pump station, which is pretty close to the Burbank Airport. And we replaced some really old pumps with 2 brand new pumps that can back each other up for better reliability for drought operations in the future. And this work was completed and allowed us to begin pumping 50 to 55 cubic feet per second of Colorado River water treated at our Weymouth plant, shown about in the middle of the screen, up into the area that serves the West Valley and western portions of Los Angeles. And this is in addition to state water project supplies that are delivered from the Jensen plant, which is why you'll see this as a cross-hatched area of the map. And this is a bird's eye view of the Gregg Avenue pumping facility, showing the pumps and the valves at that facility. So also beginning in April, member agencies started to step in and help out where they could. So in one example, back in April, these areas show the demand portions of Eastern Municipal Water District, and the green represents state water project that comes from the Mills plant and serves the northern portion of Eastern service area. And the yellow area below shows another portion of their system which we deliver Colorado River water treated at the Skinner plant. And so this is how Eastern typically operates, but in light of the low state water project supplies, Eastern shrunk the area, as you can see in the illustration, as delivered from the Mills plant, and utilized their own system flexibility to maximize the takes of Colorado River water into their service area, thereby reducing state water project use. Later in May, the board adopted a new operational shift cost offset program. This is a new program that helped to offset costs incurred by shifting deliveries. And in this case, LADWP has a rather large area that they deliver state water project supplies treated from the Jensen plant, as shown in green, and a smaller portion of Colorado River deliveries delivered from the Weymouth plant, shown in yellow. Under this program, to shift their operations, they were able to turn on additional service connections and turn on pumping stations to be able to move more Colorado River water into their system, thus reducing state water project deliveries. And later in the year, other member agencies stepped in. I'd like to highlight that West Basin stepped in and shift deliveries from one of their connections that took state water to a connection that took Colorado River water. And likewise, Three Valleys and Eastern took additional actions to further reduce their state water project use in this fashion. So all told, how did we do? This table summarizes the yield of each operational action that was taken in 2021. And like I said, several member agencies were able to defer their deliveries and shift off of state water project connections. Also, they were able to defer deliveries of replenishment water in some cases that also was state water project water. All totaled, working together, we saved over 200,000 acre feet of state water project water by using other supplies like DVL and Colorado River water. And the total conserved supply is more than the 10% state water allocation, which was over twice the amount that we were allocated from DWR last year. So it was a very significant achievement, and it was only possible through the hard work of the dedicated staff at Met and the collaboration with our member agencies to take actions throughout the system and to assist in this drought. So as we operated our system in ways that aren't routine, we needed to make sure that we had proactive measures to ensure water quality issues were addressed. And so throughout the year, staff from water quality, our own system operations, conveyance and distribution, and ops planning teams met regularly to collaborate, strategize, and monitor the system to ensure that we weren't impacted by taste and odor issues that develop in our lakes during the summertime, for instance, or to have nitrification issues emerge in parts of the system where we had really low flows. So it was thanks to all of these efforts, along with, again, contributions from the member agencies, that ensured that we were able to do these significant drought actions and address any challenges related to water quality. I'd like to highlight that during all this time, we were able to complete 15 major shutdowns of the system. And as you know, the investments that we're making in the system in partnership with the member agencies are very important to be able to flex the system as we do. And I'd like to highlight, when comparing the capital improvement program of today with the CIP of past years, past decades, we had a lot of brand new facilities that we were constructing, say 10, 20 years ago, like Inland Feeder and Diamond Valley Lake, ozone project upgrades, which were new construction, very significant, but since it was new, it would get built offline and then connected with a short shutdown at the very end. These refurbishment and replacement projects to address the aging system are very intrusive and require shutdowns of the system that's live. So we have to make sure that the member agencies are as minimally impacted as they can be. And so it's very challenging to get these shutdowns done. And as you can see, we shut down over half of our system at different times of the year through 2021. So a lot of coordination, a lot of cooperation has to happen for these shutdowns to be successfully implemented safely. So completing these shutdowns while operating the system near its limit was an additional challenge you could see highlighted here. It wasn't easy, we had portions of our system that were pegged at maximum flow. We had some minor leaks in the upper feeder, as you can see with the arrow there. And so we handled those while keeping the system running and in place, because continuing the high flows of Colorado River water was of paramount importance. We also managed air entrainment at these high flows at the treatment plants so that water quality was not impacted. And as shown in the lower left corner, we also had large portions of our system out of service because of addressing pre-stress concrete cylinder pipe relining projects. And in addition to the drought and shutdowns, we had all the other challenges in 2021 that we as water agencies experienced, and that was the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, addressing leaks, power issues, chemical supply chain disruptions. And I show here in the picture, the second from the left, a cracked slide gate. This is a really large cast iron gate that during a shutdown of Lake Matthews last February, we found a crack in the gate. The gate is about 80 years old. And so staff came up, it was founded the last week of the shutdown. Staff came up with a fix, which you see there, to repair the crack and put the gate back into service. We were challenged by trying to keep this shutdown on schedule. And because of the 24/7 work and the using our own shop facilities in Laverne, we were able to keep the entire shutdown on schedule and return this to service. So I'll conclude by saying none of this happens in a vacuum. Success only happens through teamwork, and that means us working together on the planning for the infrastructure improvements and repairs that we do, and the vision of adding facilities that really allows us to have the tools necessary to flex the system in times like these. That it takes leadership at the board, and under Chairwoman Gray's direction, we've really had a lot of success, and we were able to confront really a record extraordinary drought and extraordinary conditions overall last year. We partner with our engineering staff throughout the organization, as well as our member agencies. We really couldn't do it as a team without the teamwork from all involved. So what will 2022 bring? We started out really low in terms of supply. Fortunately, we have a 15% state water allocation, which is low, but certainly better than 5% we saw last year. But whatever circumstances might occur in 2022, we know that we can all rise to the challenge, as we've done so many times before, through teamwork and collaboration at all levels. That's really the message that I want to leave you with. We're prepared for any variety of circumstances in 2022, and Brad is also going to provide some information to share with you on continued actions that will improve reliability for the future. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
No questions. Thank you very much, Brent.
You're welcome. Thank you.
EJ, let's go on to item 4B.
Happy to do so, President Williams. Brent, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for all the work that you and your team are doing for its member agencies. The next item we have is item 4B. It's our Metropolitan Water District actions to alleviate drought update. And for this presentation, we do have Brad Coffey, the Manager of Water Resource Management.
Thank you, EJ. And can you confirm you see my slide and can hear me?
We can.
Great, thank you. Well, I do want to amend the title a little bit of this presentation. We actually can't make it rain, but what our job really is to help alleviate any water shortages or challenges during the drought. And one thing that always strikes me is that our planning and actions, it's really about remembering the past, thinking about what could happen in the future. And I show this line from John Steinbeck's East of Eden that says, and it never failed that during the dry years, people forgot about the rich years. And during the wet years, they lost all memory of the dry years. It was always that way. And at Metropolitan, we're really approaching this drought in a way, one, to remember that, to not forget this severe dry year, but also to not forget the opportunities in the wet years. So let me give you an update on our current water supply conditions. We've had kind of an every other month year so far. In October, we had a lot of rainfall with the bomb cyclone in Northern California. November was very dry. December, we had a lot of snowpack, and January's been extremely dry so far. And in fact, the next couple of weeks in February seem pretty dry too. So we're right about normal snowpack for this date, which is improved conditions, but we still have to keep our eye on it. Now, some of the drought responses have been easing, and I'm just going to walk you through kind of 5 or 6 different items here that are on our list to always be monitoring during a drought. First is the State Water Project's Table A allocation. That's how we are provided, and the region's provided water through Department of Water Resources in our contract with the State Water Project. In December, they were not allocating water, and instead they would have allocated water based on the human health and safety needs, roughly 55 gallons per person per day, plus other critical needs. Now, the additional precipitation and the snowpack has allowed that to ease, and there is a 15% allocation now, and the January study showed a likelihood of getting an allocation to the 20 or 25% level. Department of Water Resources and the Bureau of Reclamation also had requested of the State Water Board basically some relaxing of the Delta pumping rules in order to be able to provide this water for human health and safety needs. That's called a temporary urgency change petition. They filed it at the beginning of December, and conditions had improved enough that they were able to withdraw that petition. And so at least in the February through April time period, won't be seeking those small changes in the Delta pumping rules. However, the whole state is still in a declared drought area. Metropolitan's declaration of emergency conditions in areas receiving state water project supplies remains, and we can still provide great benefit to the region by our continued conservation activities, and so we remain under a regional water supply alert. So the issue that arose over this historic drought, the 2020 and 2021 severe constraint on the state water project system, was that some areas of our system, those that are dependent on the state water project, were particularly vulnerable. And our board, under the leadership of Chairwoman Gray, has committed us to resolve this issue, and not only for this current drought emergency, but for our future drought emergency. Now, a little bit of this overlaps with what Brent just said, so I'm going to talk about some of the items that we've done, including these new interconnections and new pumping at Gregg Avenue and connecting Diamond Valley Lake to the Mills plant. But in 2019, Metropolitan's board also approved a new storage program in the high desert with the Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency. This will ultimately be able to store 280,000 acre feet of water with a put and take capacity of 70,000 acre feet of water per year. What's important about that is that put and take capacity will all be either by spreading or by groundwater wells. It's not by exchanges. So 70,000 acre feet of water per year would be available irrespective of the dry conditions on the State Water Project. As I mentioned, Metropolitan declared a drought emergency in parts of our service area. That has stepped up our messaging on conservation. That has allowed us to take additional wisdom, which is our water surplus and drought management actions to bring water into the region. Brent also mentioned operating at a high flow on the Colorado River Aqueduct, shifting supplies. And our board also took additional actions in order to be able to increase the ability to partner with other state water project agencies and to be able to deliver water from Diamond Valley Lake into some of these state water project dependent areas. Finally, we're taking additional actions in the ability to partner with stored water, both with San Diego County Water Authority, with Irvine Ranch Water District, receiving additional water through a Friant exchange through our partner in the Central Valley, and working with San Bernardino Mutual Water District in order to be able to exchange water with them and to move water into our Rialto area. So similar to Brent's graphics, I show like a whole list of actions here. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to do a little bit of revisionist history, but say, what if these actions, which we already had underway, were available or have underway now, were available at the start of the drought like this current one? So if our storage programs in Antelope Valley were available, if the Gregg Avenue pumping was available, if the agency shifting and the DVL, moving of DVL water to the east side were available, and if we began operating those in 2020. Now I know that's a lot of ifs, but I want to be able to demonstrate to you that these programs would have actually resulted in no need to declare an emergency. Metropolitan Water District would not have had to declare an emergency. I just say that to say that we've taken some big initial steps to help resolve these severe constraints, but we're not stopping there. As part of the November board resolution, the board directed the general manager and staff to identify and implement measures to ensure that all parts of the service area can attain a high level of reliability against drought. Well, let me show graphically kind of what that means and get to the root of one of the issues, and that's the highly variable yield of the State Water Project. Now, what this graphic shows is from left to right, the highest to the lowest expected amount of water that could be delivered to Metropolitan through the State Water Project. We had a series of 2 very wet years in a 3-year period between 2017 and 2019, and Metropolitan received more than 3.5 million acre feet in that 3-year period from the State Water Project. We were able to really fill storage, although we actually weren't able to capture all of the water that was available to us. Now, the Department of Water Resources does a projection every other year. It's called their Delivery Capability Report, or DCR. Shown here in the middle is the Department of Water Resources' lowest projection for a 3-year period that they believe that they would be delivering water to the state water, to Metropolitan. Now, we found that is perhaps not low enough of a projection for our planning purposes. In fact, our 2020 Integrated Resources Plan, which we'll be bringing before our board in March for them to adopt the findings, is estimating or projecting that the State Water Project over a 3-year period could provide much less than 1 million acre feet in some conditions of rapidly advancing climate change and an increasing regulatory environment. Where we stand right now is we do have a 15% allocation. If that goes up to 25%, we'd be receiving 1 million acre feet over that 3-year period. But we're going to be planning for this extreme drought assessment, which is 3 consecutive years of a 5% State Water Project allocation, such that the region can withstand that with an equivalent level of water supply reliability between the agencies. So that's our intent. Some areas of coordination with our member agencies include really looking and getting other input on this extreme drought assessment scenario. Some may feel that it's maybe too aggressive, some may feel that it's not goes far enough, and to really come to a good common understanding of our reliability and resilience goal. So here are the kind of the four main areas that we'll be working on to resolve this. It's in storage and exchanges, pumping, programs, and you'll be seeing coming before our board in the next few months a number of actions to address these. For example, in February at our E&O committee, we're bringing a proposal to include into the capital investment program some initial planning for getting 150 cubic feet per second into the west side. And that's through looking at some pumping at the Venice and Sepulveda feeders and or potentially expanding the Gregg Avenue pump station. So that's a February action. In February also, we're bringing what's called a reverse cyclic program, which is basically an opportunity for Metropolitan to call on agencies who have planned a state water project delivery to defer that delivery during a drought year into a future year. So let me talk about two of the items that will be coming before water planning and stewardship and before the board. One will be basically putting a deposit down with the state water contractors so that we can pursue 2022 water transfers in the Sacramento Valley. We've got a good history of being able to participate in this. There's not a huge amount of water available. As you can see, we've received between like 6,000 acre feet and 88,000 acre feet in recent years. But this will simply be a deposit with the state water contractors that will allow Metropolitan and all the state water contractors to participate in kind of a pooled negotiation for water transfers for north of Delta transfers. Our reverse cyclic program will allow Metropolitan to request the deferral of a state water project full service purchase planned in 2022 to a future year. So we're just offering this for this calendar year. And if you think about what I just talked about with the transfers, any deferred supply would be water that perhaps that transfer wouldn't be needed for. And the way it works is that the member agency would have had a planned purchase of water this year, and they would go ahead and we would make that sale, we would make that purchase. And the Metropolitan would postpone the delivery of that water for up to 5 years. That water would be delivered at Metropolitan's discretion. There wouldn't be any losses associated with the deliveries. And we're removing a disincentive for an agency to postpone that delivery by selling that water for this year and delivering it in a future year. So the end result, as I hope you can see, is that Metropolitan and state water project dependent areas will in the future be able to withstand drought that's far more extreme than observed history, or even the DWR's current planning criteria, without calling for mandatory drought reductions. In essence, our commitment is to not forget the dry years. Thanks, and I'd be happy to address any questions, Chair.
So no questions. Good presentation. EJ?
Yes, thank you very much, President Deere. We do have under item number 5, MWD consent calendar items, and Brad just mentioned them on slides 18 and 19. But Brad, I don't know if you have anything to add about, excuse me, MWD action item 7-8, authorize agreement with the state water contractors to pursue the 2022 Sacramento Valley water transfer supplies at $5 per acre foot, initial administrative deposit not to exceed $500,000. Again, you did just mention it, but I didn't know if you had anything else to add.
No, EJ, other than, again, this deposit, that's for 100,000 acre feet. Just to let you know, we don't expect to get 100,000 acre-feet of transfers, but that reserves Metropolitan's position to get our relative proportion of the transfers that's equivalent to our Table A allocation. That is by giving a deposit for 100,000 acre-feet, we would be able to receive 52% or so of the transferred water.
And similarly, Brad, we do have item 5B, which is Metropolitan Water District's action 7-9 to authorize the general manager to enter into a reverse cyclic agreement with participating agencies to preserve the availability of state water project supplies to Metropolitan. I wasn't sure if you had anything else to add as well.
The only thing I would add there is I really feel that all the incentives are aligned well with this program. The member agencies are moving forward with a purchase. So there's an actual purchase of the water in the current year. And Metropolitan it would be delivering that in a future year. And we're obviously incentivized to return that water as soon as possible within that 5-year period. And that allows some agencies who have flexibility to work with us while still receiving the sale of a full service delivery.
Thank you very much, Brad. And President Deere, that concludes our information and action items, unless there's any questions from the board or our guests.
This is Russ Lefebvre. I have a question.
Go ahead, Russ.
So when we went through the allocations in January, when we were looking at 0%, Dimitri mentioned that if it went all the way up to 5%, that the SWP agencies would be able to get to June without addressing the HHS allocations. If we go to 15%, how far out does that go? Does it go to, I don't know, September?
Chair Deere, I can address that if you wish.
Sure, please do.
Thank you, Director Lefebvre. Yes, that 15% allocation is roughly the same amount of water that our request for critical health and safety supplies was. So we're nearly receiving all of the water with that 15% allocation even for a high demand scenario. We're confident that we have enough water for this 2022 year that we would not have to access health and safety supplies absent something really changing that is highly unexpected for us, given, say, the conditions in the Eastern Sierras or other water supply conditions. So we really think that the likelihood is extremely low that for this year that we would need to access any health and safety supplies. But I would say that where we're at with 15% State Water Project is not replenishing State Water Project side storage for a future dry year. So we really would be starting to look towards 2023, which keeps our foot on the gas for all of these drought actions that we were speaking about.
Thanks, Brad. You know, this presentation and the one by Brent are just really, really good. As a member of the board, it certainly gives me a lot of feeling that the staff knows how to go ahead with what the board wants. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Director Lefebvre, and I just want to let you know that Brent and I are just honored to be able to represent the work of so many of the staff members and of the support of our board. We kind of get the fun job of showing you this, but I just want to assure you that there are a lot of people today and every day working really hard so that we can bring you this type of information, and we can be making this progress.
Very good. EJ?
Director Deere?
Yes, that's
Hello?
great. Yes.
Yes. May I speak? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I wanted to echo what Director LaFave said. Thank you, Brad and Brent, for the presentation this morning. It was such an important one, and just acknowledge what Director LaFave said, that the staff there at Metropolitan is outstanding. They continue to do the business of the district, and I'm very appreciative as chair, as I'm sure many other board members. So I just wanted to acknowledge Met staff this morning for their diligent and outstanding work that they continue to do. So thank you.
You're welcome, Director Gray. They do excellent work and they make the board look good.
Yes, thank you for those words, Chair Gray. We really appreciate you and the leadership of the board and the support of the member agencies. I often say, I agree with what Brad said. You know, it's a very large team, including the member agencies. I'd also like to say these investments are like putting tools in your toolbox. And it's nice that when we have extraordinary, challenging conditions like this, that we can turn to our toolbox and find an assortment of tools to get us through these very difficult challenges. So we really appreciate your support and your leadership.
Well, this
Thank you so much.
This concludes the Mutual Admiration Society meeting. There are no other questions. All right. We thank everyone for your participation. We appreciate it. Our next meeting will be March 2nd. And if there's no further business, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much, President Deere, members of our staff, and all of our guests. And thank you very much, obviously, to Brad and to Brent.